What's going on, guys? This is Josh. Welcome to Treksplained. Here we talk about Star Trek and drink. Please like and subscribe after the video if you enjoy it. Now, without further ado, let me explain something to you. Past Prologue is the third episode of the first season of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It starts out with the Cardassian tailor Garrick approaching Dr. Bashir at an eatery on the promenade, just making pleasant conversation. Bashir comments that some people think Garrick is a spy. How interesting. But he's just plain simple Garrick, who owns a clothing shop. Garrick departs, and Bashir leaves to go to talk to everyone in Ops. Nobody seems to care. Just then, a Bajoran ship shows up with a Cardassian ship, the Aldara, following and firing on it. But this is a Cardassian ship opening fire in Bajoran space. Major Kira is pissed. Sisko hails the Cardassians and tells them to fuck off. They ignore him, but then the Bajoran ship hails but is destroyed. Luckily, they are able to beam the Bajoran off first. It's Tana Los, and he knows Major Kira. Coming back from the credits, the Cardassian commander, Goldenar, hails the station and is mad at them. The Bajoran is a member of the Kohn-Ma, but he's requested asylum. Sisko invites Dinar to dock so he can explain himself for firing in Bajoran space before hanging up. The Kohn-Ma, by the way, is a terrorist cell of Bajorans, and they just keep on the fight with the Cardassians. Sisko and Kira head to the infirmary but argue about the Kohn-Ma and how they continue to murder Cardassians in peacetime. They ask Bashir if Tana Los will be okay, and then proceed to ask some other questions. Kira is being a little accusatory towards Sisko and the asylum request, so Sisko dismisses her. Sisko talks to Tana Los alone. Why is he still instigating the Cardassians? He's used to it. Punishment for past crimes. Who knows? Cut to Kira talking with Starfleet Admiral Rollman about how Sisko doesn't understand what is going on. The Admiral thanks her and hangs up. Sisko comes back to Ops and talks with O'Brien. Him and Dax are making sure all docking procedures and rules are followed for the visiting Cardassian ship. Sisko says he's going to do some research on the Kohn-Ma, but O'Brien chimes in first. Whatever else is happening, you really don't want to turn anyone over to the tender care of the Cardassians. There's a chime on the panel, and Sisko has a call from Admiral Rollman. Kira interrupted a staff meeting to complain about Sisko. The Admiral is pissed, and Sisko has a problem. In the infirmary, Kira comes to see Tana Los. They talk about old times. He asks if she thinks Sisko will turn him over to the Cardassians. Kira responds with, "Over my dead body." Now that's the Kira he remembers. Goldenar comes into Sisko's office, finally, to discuss Tana Los. By the end of the angry conversation, Sisko tells him he will grant Tana Los asylum. Eventually, he'll return to Bajor, and then the Cardassians can take it up with diplomatic channels. Goldenar storms out. Tana Los is released from the infirmary, and Kira shows him to quarters. She tells him Bajor needs people like him. He gets mad that the Federation is there too. Being under any other government is not what he fought for. Bajor for Bajorans. Kira says she's working on amnesty for him and any other Kohn-Ma. He smiles as she leaves. Is he plotting something? Cut to the Duras sisters, Lursa and Betor, refusing to give up their weapons to Bajoran security. Odo shows up. Leave the weapons or leave the station. They surrender their weapons and storm off, as Klingons do. Odo enters Sisko's office and tells him about the sisters. Interesting. What could they be doing here? The Klingon Empire have them listed as renegades after their failed coup and brief civil war in the Next Generation Civil War 2-part episode, Redemption. Odo suggests locking them up, but Sisko says they haven't broken any laws yet. Just keep an eye on them. The Duras sisters are sitting and drinking in Quarks when Garrick notices them from the level below. Quarks has at least 2 levels, but I think it has 3. Bashir shows up and says hi to Garrick. Garrick invites him to sit with him. They talk about clothing and how Klingons have a peculiar sense of style. The Duras sisters, for example, are worth studying closely. Tanalos enters Quarks, and the Klingons get up to meet him. Odo watches as they leave. They enter a cargo bay. They talk about gold he owes them. It'll be available tomorrow. Get off my back. Odo watches the whole thing as a rat, but morphs back to humanoid after they leave. Sisko and Kira met in ops and talk about amnesty and whatnot. 2 other members of the Kohn-Ma are coming to the station with the same promise of amnesty. He brings up how she went over his head to talk to the Admiral. Do it again, and he'll have her head on a platter. In his office, Sisko talks to Odo about what he had witnessed. They deduce that the gold might be coming with those 2 other members of the Kohn-Ma, but they should keep this from Kira for the time being. In Garrick's shop, the Duras sisters enter. They are here to sell, not to buy. They are offering him Tanalos. They reject Garrick's initial offer, but he says they can haggle. Kira enters Tanalos' quarters and announces he'll receive amnesty officially now. He compliments her diplomacy. Then he proclaims he's still Kohn-Ma and has been manipulating Kira the whole time. He needs a warp ship for the plan, though. Is Kira for Bajor or for the Federation? Garrick approaches Bashir on the promenade, and they talk about the Kohn-Ma people who just arrived talking to Tanalos. Bashir is uncomfortable and tries to leave, but Garrick suggests he come to his shop at 20:55 hours and promises he won't be disappointed. At Ops, Kira is looking up Kohn-Ma activities reports when Sisko calls her to talk. He asks her to arrange a meeting between him and the 2 new Kohn-Ma who just came aboard. He asks her opinion of them. She says she's secure in her feelings about them just as much as Tanalos. Bashir interrupts them and Kira leaves. Sisko and Bashir talk about Garrick's invite, and Sisko says Bashir could use a new suit. Kira shows up in Odo's office, and they talk about security concerns before she eventually talks about her past a bit and how unsure she is right now. Either choice she makes, she'll be betraying someone. She's struggling with it, but Odo makes the determination for her. He calls Sisko to his office. Bashir shows up to Garrick's shop at 20:57 hours, so he's late, but he puts Bashir into a changing room anyway and says to keep trying it on until something happens. Bashir shortly hears the Duras sisters talking to Garrick. The Cardassians can have Tanalos after he delivers their gold, and he gets the Bellitrium in 4 hours. The sisters leave and Garrick grabs Bashir. With Bellitrium, Tanalos could create a bomb with huge destructive potential. In Ops, the crew all talk about what they should do. They haven't yet committed a crime, so they can't lock them up. They'd need to wait for the purchase to happen. Kira says they need to let them use a runabout. They debate about whether Kira should be on it, and eventually she wins out. Sisko agrees, but him and O'Brien will take a second runabout and be close by in case something happens. He tells Dax to monitor the Cardassians. He's sure they'll show up. Later, Odo monitors Kira as she and Tanalos enter a runabout. He informs Dax, who informs Sisko and O'Brien on the other runabout. They shut down power to run silent and await their prey. Tanalos is working on an antimatter converter, while Kira pilots the ship. A bird of prey decloaks, but it's okay. All part of the plan. O'Brien reports to Sisko, and they prepare themselves. The Klingons transport to the runabout and give Tanalos the Bellitrium in exchange for 13 kilograms of gold-pressed latinum. I don't know how many bars or slips or whatever that is. They transport away and leave the system. O'Brien and Sisko head to intercept the other runabout. Dax calls Sisko to notify him that the Cardassians are heading there too. Kira and Tanalos see the runabout and the Cardassians, and Tanalos freaks out a bit and tells Kira to go to warp. She suggests the Klingons sold them out. She tries to grab a phaser, but Tanalos punches her in the face. He orders her to head to DS9 or he'll destroy the colonies on the moon. What the fuck, man? Those are your own people. Sisko calls the Cardassians for help. They're finally allies. The Cardassians won't get there fast enough, but tells Sisko he told him so. What a dick. Not the time, man. Sisko prepares to fire on the other ship, once it drops to Impulse. Tanalos' goal was not the station, however, it's the wormhole. He orders her to drop out of warp, but instead she throws an emergency turn and knocks Tana off balance. They head directly into the wormhole and fight while inside it. They exit the wormhole, and Tana is able to push a button and launch the bomb, but explodes in empty space. Sisko calls from the other runabout and gives him the choice of surrender or of dealing with the Cardassians. He surrenders to Major Kira. Back on the station, Tanalos is placed under arrest. He calls Kira a traitor before being hauled away by security. Sisko and Kira walk away together, and the credits roll. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for watching Treksplained. If you liked today's video, please drop a like and subscribe so you get updates on new videos. See you next time on Treksplained.